Let's go. Let's go. Got a couple new clips.
Yo, it's the technotronic era. Welcome to the terror, where liberty's a glitch in the system's new mascara. They track every tick, every click, every error. Files on your mind, now the state is the bearer. A scientific cost with a task to confine ya. Data mining thoughts while they program and bind ya. No need for change when the brain's been designed to love your servitude. Huxley's right behind ya. Puppets in the press, they finesse through the lies, twisting every truth while they televise the skies. Your freedom's a mirage, man, the optics are fake. Pawns in the game that the hidden hands create. Digital prisons, we live in algorithms, thinking we're free while they hack our decisions. Eyes in the sky and the wires that bind. Thoughts ain't yours, they were planted in your mind. From Piltdown Man to cold fusion scams, fake science sold while they tighten the jams. Truth in a cage, education's a blaze.
I thought that might happen.
Slice through free will to your thought.
Man. I gotta turn off. How do I do this? Gosh, stupid phones, dude. Battery. Low power mode. Off.
Thoughts start to fade, they study the mind like lab rats can find. Russell injections and screens that dictate. Breed two species, one rules, one's a slave state. Charismatic leaders with mass appeal. False prophets rise when the crisis gets real. A scientific elite, cold and discreet. Visions, eyes in the sky and the wires that bind. Thoughts ain't yours, they were planted in your mind. Manipulate the youth from the cradle to the booth. Truth classified, locked up in a phone booth. Governments push what they want you to feel. Shadows run the show while they keep it concealed. The system exploits and the people comply. Love your servitude while your rights just die. They map your soul in a digital maze, building new slaves while we sit in a daze. Holograms talk while the masses applaud. Science is God, new priests of the fraud. Step out the matrix, they tighten the noose. And truth's just a ghost, only few see the ruse. Digital prisons, we live in algorithms, thinking we're free while they hack our decisions. Eyes in the sky and the wires that bind. Thoughts ain't yours, they were planted in your mind.
Scientific elite, cold and discreet. Control runs deep, bubble rock back to sleep. Science is lame. Science is fake and gray. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
I just want to ask you, how do you say that Christianity is objectively proven?
Well, because God is a transcendental, and so we would prove God with the transcendental proof, which would be the transcendental argument for God.
I'm not familiar with that. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, transcendental arguments are designed to sort of analyze what's necessary to even experience reality. And so we show that the Christian God, the Christian worldview is going to be necessary to experience the world or to do science or to have this conversation.
All right. Even if that was true, which I disagree with that, by the way, what makes you think that the Christian God is the one out of the, I don't know, 3,000 gods that there have been throughout mankind history?
The problem is if you disagree with it, it's an anti-skeptical argument, so you can't disagree with it because um, we're saying that like to even use logic, you need the Christian God because logic is an absolute truth and it needs an absolute foundation. And so since you don't have an absolute foundation, that's not the Christian God because the Christian God has a unique and indispensable attribute set that is the only like entity that can ground logic. So
Okay, so what I think about that is that man as a species has evolved to man as a species has evolved to a certain point where he can understand things, but
no,
he
you can't.
cannot understand. Uh,
It doesn't work.
Excuse me?
It doesn't work. So logic is conceptual, right?
Yes.
And it's also correct thinking about the world. So we need something to like make it true, basically. Like the world in reality. So like something can't exist and not exist at the same time. So the law non-contradiction is true in reality. It's not just conceptually true. So we need to make it true. What could make it true? It's like only the Christian God. Because you're using logic.
So, yeah, so it's what you are doubting that we are real.
No, I'm saying you're using logic, and that's like you have this logic sword that you're wielding, this sword of logic. And I'm like asking,
Yes.
who forged the sword? Because as far as I'm concerned, you're using God's sword. So when you deny God, using God's tool to deny God, that's a contradiction. And it's crazy to do that.
Yeah, why has it to be God and not the universe or man itself?
Because logic is a unchanging, eternal, like necessary truth. And so we need a unchanging, eternal, necessary mind for the necessary truth. Human minds aren't necessary, you're contingent. So
Yes, but I would argue that God is the definition of defining logic. You tell me that there is an invisible man that I cannot see, I cannot speak with
again,
him, I cannot
you're
interact.
using logic. You're using logic. Where did you get it? What absolute
From my brain, what do you mean?
It can't though because your brain is an absolute. Logic is absolute, which means like it applies everyone uses the same logic and everyone you can't just like make up your own logic.
Logic is coming to a conclusion based on some evidence, that just
Yeah, and it's true
looking for fact.
independent of a human mind. It can't be dependent on a human mind. Human minds are not capable of making logic. Your mind doesn't make things real, does it? Like if you say, I don't believe in gravity, does gravity stop being real?
No,
Right. So
gravity is proven.
your mind can't make logic real, but the mind of God can, because God creates the universe. So what's
So
going to
you're
make
saying,
there's nothing that's going to make logic real outside of the mind of God. There's nothing.
wait a minute. So you're telling me that if God isn't real, logic doesn't exist in a hypothetical scenario where God
No, I'm
doesn't
not
exist.
talking. I'm talking about reality, dude. In
Yes,
reality, there has to be something has to make logic real because in reality, something can't exist and not exist at the same time. Contradictions can't happen in reality.
so you're challenging reality. You're saying reality can't exist without a God.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, Before I go into that, why you said reality can exist without a God, not the Christian God. There are 3,000 plus gods. Even if we jump to the conclusion that it needs a God, we still haven't figured out which God is that.
No, we now know the Christian God is true because I'm giving you the evidence that you're ignoring. So I keep telling you this. When we talk about the Christian God we have is a God who's revealed himself in human history and creation with the necessary and perfect attribute set. No other God has that attribute set. For example, the Christian God is triune. No other God is triune, and that you need a triune God. So it has to be the Christian God. We know the Bible's true.
Why? Let me just tell you that your God is opposed as all loving, all powerful, and all knowing. I said all knowing, and all loving. All right. So, uh, how can a God, who knows what's going to happen, create a being that knows it's going to go to hell and suffer for eternity? All right, so that contradicts the all-loving claim. And if you're saying he doesn't know, that contradicts the all-knowing claim.
There's nothing contradictory. God creating a human with a choice, and then the human uses his choice that God gave him to choose hell. You don't have to go to hell. You can choose Jesus. There's nothing
All right, so
contradictory there.
if I am a time traveler, all right, if I know the future and come to you and tell you in 10 minutes you're gonna order pizza from Pizza Fan, all right, and I know that that is a fact. Since I told you and I know it's going to happen, you don't really have the choice. You're gonna do it, and that's just the illusion of free will. Because when something is pre-written, when pre-written, sorry, my English ain't that good. When something is destiny, you can't overcome it. You can't change it.
Okay, but knowledge doesn't equal causation. Like, I know the sun's gonna rise tomorrow. That doesn't mean my knowledge causes it to rise. So there's just a non-causal relationship between our choice and God's knowledge. There's no contradiction.
Yes, you don't know the sun is going to rise tomorrow. You assume the sun is going to
Okay,
rise
now
tomorrow
you're being
because
unreasonable. Now you're being
no,
unreasonable.
no, wait, let me
Stop.
explain.
No,
You interrupt me.
no, no,
Give me a minute to explain.
no,
Give me a minute to
no, I'm
explain.
not. No, you're being you're being unreasonable. It's just it's
You don't
knowledge.
know
Knowledge
if
of your
to
God's knowledge of your choice doesn't mean he causes your choice. It just doesn't follow. You're just wrong. Okay? And people say
how
this
am I
all
wrong?
the time.
If I know what you're gonna do,
Because knowledge
don't.
doesn't cause things. Knowledge doesn't cause things. I know the sun's gonna rise. I don't cause the sun to rise.
You don't know with 100% certainty.
It doesn't matter.
Maybe,
It doesn't matter.
maybe.
It doesn't matter.
No, it does matter because
Yes, it does. You don't know what you're
God,
talking about. You're uneducated
God
on the
knows
subject. You're
100%.
philosophically confused. You're confused. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you're just wrong. Look it up.
Yes, I'm not saying that knowing what
Okay,
you
I
will
mean,
do will cause it. I'm just saying that if someone knows 100% it's going to happen something, that thing is going to happen. So since that
Ah,
thing is going
shit.
to happen,
Here we go
I
again.
cannot change it. How? Tell
now
me,
you're
tell me.
just repeating yourself. I've told you that you're
You,
wrong. So now you're just
I,
ignoring what I'm saying. Okay, so
that's the
now
problem.
we're done. Are we done then? I guess we're done.
You're telling me I'm wrong, but not why. Before
I
you talked
did tell
about
you
your
why.
logic.
There's knowledge.
Use your logic.
Stop.
Use your logic.
Okay, you're not cooperating.
Use your
You're
logic.
not cooperating. Yes, I did. I told you there's a non-causal relationship between knowledge and your choice. I told you exactly what it was. Liar.
What's up, dude?
Welcome.
Hey, dude. Can you hear me?
Hey, dude. Yeah.
All right.
What's up? What would you like to say?
I don't know, man. I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like this first point is not true, or the whole Christianity is. I don't really, believe it.
Okay, well, that doesn't, I mean, you probably, there's things that are objectively proven that you probably don't believe, right? I mean,
Can you please explain to me how is it objectively proven by whom?
Cornelius Van Til came up with an objective proof for Christianity, the transcendental argument for God.
So he's proven that there's a man who knows everything up in the clouds and has almighty power.
Yeah, that man is necessary for knowledge, science, intelligibility.
So you do realize that religion is fiction, is a man-made invention, right?
Oh, so you're saying the Bible's a fiction?
Yeah, so you do realize that Jesus is just
Hold
a
on.
fictional character like Spider-Man.
Okay, so what authority would you appeal to when you make that claim?
I don't know, man. History? History book?
Okay, so I don't really think we should talk because I might get banned for ableism.
Oh. I just feel like, and there are other religions other than Christianity, right? There are Buddhism and Muslim. So
I saw the Ryan Mullins Danny conversation. So I don't know, man. You're just like really uneducated. So like, what are we gonna do here? Like, Christianity's proven. You obviously have no arguments. Why are you here?
I don't know, man. I just feel like I don't really think that there's a man who's up in the clouds and knows everything and has almighty power. And I feel like if you want to believe it, then that's
You
good.
can't. I just like to say you can't rationally. Your position is not rational. It's just this is. You said I feel like you're just being emotional. So can't reason with you, I guess.
I don't know, man. I mean, I respect people with religions. My dad is actually he believes in Buddhism, but I'm just saying that just because you believe something doesn't mean that it's like real. And
That's how I make an argument, right? I prove it with an argument. So I have a proof. It's called an argument. So
so what's the proof really? Like, someone actually proved that there's a God, like an entity.
Yes, because facts require a story for there to be. Or here, let me explain to you like this. So, like, think about a cake. There's preconditions for a cake, right? Like, you can't have a cake if you don't have milk, sugar, flour, eggs. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
Milk, flour, sugar, eggs to make cake. So if I have a cake, then I have milk. I have the preconditions of cake, the milk. So you couldn't like believe in cake and not believe in like eggs because you need eggs to make cake. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so can you be more specific with your metaphors in this cake and milk stuff?
You don't understand what I'm saying?
So you're saying that God, before there's
Hold
cake.
on. We're not even. I didn't say anything about God. What are you talking about? I'm talking about cake. I'm not saying cake. Do you think I'm saying cake is God?
I'm not really getting like where you're going.
Okay. You don't understand do you understand what cake is? Have you ever seen a cake in your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
And
food.
do you know that like to make a cake, you have to have ingredients for cake? Is this,
Yeah.
have you, okay. So if I have the cake, I have the ingredients that went into the cake. I mean, does this blow your mind or what? Is there like
Okay.
smoke coming out of your ears right now?
Okay, so you're talking about cake. You're talking about making a cake. Okay, I get it. So what does that have to do with the Christianity being real and God being real?
Okay, so do you understand the concept of that there's preconditions for cake, and the cake, if we have the cake, we also have the preconditions of cake?
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, so the same concept applies, we're going to apply it to knowledge. There's preconditions for knowledge, just like the cake. And those preconditions for knowledge are either revealed by the Christian God, or they are arbitrary. So the Christian God is necessary for knowledge, just like milk, eggs, and flour are necessary for cake. So we have knowledge, therefore the Christian God is true.
So you're saying that the reason why we have knowledge is because there's God.
Yes.
What about people in other regions that have no idea of Christianity and they have like different, for example, like China, like where I'm from, people don't have like the concept of Christianity, like
Doesn't
way
matter.
before there are like international trades and stuff. And
It doesn't matter.
where do they get their knowledge from? Since there's no concept of Christian.
It doesn't matter because they live in the world Jesus created, whether they know of Jesus or not. You still live in his world. And everyone technically knows him because he's revealed in creation. And he's revealed in the fact that he designed your thinking. And like when you like steal candy from a baby and it feels bad on the inside, that's God revealing himself.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you believe that Earth is a planet and there are millions of countless planets out there, or do you believe that Earth is flat?
Why would you ask me that?
Just answer it, dude.
Are you a flat earther? Welcome. I mean, would it make you feel better if I was a flat earther? Okay, I'm a flat earther. Now, can you sleep at night? Holy
Hello.
crap. Welcome.
I just have one question about the fourth point.
Sure.
That abortion is child sacrifice. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you have a preborn baby that you're sacrificing for a false idol like bodily autonomy or something like that, or convenience.
So are you like pro-life or pro-choice?
I'm an abolitionist, which means that I think people who commit abortion should be charged like as a schmurder.
Oh, so you're pro-life.
Abolitionist.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I just want to know what you mean by the fourth point because I didn't really understand it.
Okay. Well, do you understand now?
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Also, I like what you're doing. Have a great day.
Oh, cool. Thank you. You too. I wish you will. So there we go. I got some new clips, guys. New clips.
Why do you think it's not in your best interest to have stuff stolen from you or to be thrown off the stage?
Why is it not in my best interest?
Yeah. No, you don't get to think, oh, that's self-evident. It's like nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh. Well, so,
Because if we're going to get skeptical here, we might as well go all the way to the bottom for dictating what's good for us.
no, because if you chop off my head, that is clearly not good for me. And it doesn't matter whether it was an act of free will or if it was my lawnmower.
It's clearly not good for you because you think you're valuable and worth preserving.
Yes.
Okay, that's the issue. Why do you think you're valuable and worth preserving?
Because I am the descendants of people who thought they were valuable and worth
Did he really just say that? monkey value.
Who thought they were valuable and worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that.
Why do you think it's not in your best?
He says, he tells Jordan Peterson that I have value because I evolved from a monkey that thought it had value. Oh, Lord. Welcome.
All right. I'm not gonna argue with the last argument. I just have one question for you. All right. I've been thinking for a long time. If God knows me, knows everything about me, and He knows what it takes for me to believe, because I cannot force myself to believe in something. I cannot force myself to believe in unicorns if I don't believe in unicorns. If He knows what it takes for me to believe in Him, why doesn't He provide me with that thing?
Well, He's given you more than enough evidence to believe in Him. You just suppress the truth and unrighteousness because you're rebellious against God.
Yes, but that's not what I said. I said if there is a way that I can, with 100% certainty, believe in Him, I cannot doubt it. He comes down from heaven and it shows to me and says, "I am God." You cannot deny that. I will believe in Him, but I have not seen evidence that are enough to pursue me. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm stupid. I'll tell you. Maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe I'm stupid. But shouldn't God know that and provide me with the evidence I need to believe? Doesn't He want to save my soul?
He did provide you with the evidence. So God's obvious. He's obvious in the order in the world. He's there's a passage in the Bible where this guy is in hell and he's like, man, hell sucks. And then he begs Jesus to like let him resurrect so he can warn his brothers about hell. And Jesus says to him, even if you resurrect from the dead, they will still not believe because they already have the prophets and the scripture and they have all the evidence they need. And if they don't believe the prophets, they're not going to believe you resurrecting from the dead. So you have all you need to know, all the evidence you need to know about God. You just suppress the truth and unrighteousness because you're rebellious.
So, to get this straight, you compare someone I know resurrecting from the dead to a guy telling me that God is real, because prophets are that. They tell you that God is real, they deliver the word of God. If my grandpa resurrected from the dead and told me that God is real and God sent him to tell me, I would the very next day I would be at church and do everything. I would be the most faithful Christian. And one other, yes, please tell me.
You're lying. You would just come up with a natural explanation.
No, I wouldn't, but also I have one other problem with Christianity. My problem is that even among Christians, they can't seem to agree on everything. You have 2 billion Christians on earth, which half are Catholic, another 25% is Orthodox, another is, I don't know how you call it in English, but they are Baptists, Protestants. You know, there are too many subcultures. So when I want to pursue Christ, when I want to pursue Jesus, what do I follow and how do I know that this is the correct one and this is the wrong one?
You study, you use your reason, your God-given reason and arguments.
All right. So what are you, a Catholic and Orthodox?
You can understand scripture through context, grammar, and reason.
Yes, but the scripture has been altered a lot from year to year.
That's a lie. No, that's a lie. So that we know that's what you're lying.
Firstly, let's start by the fact that.
Lying. Why you just come up here and constantly?
All right. Then I'm wrong. I'm wrong. All right, I'm wrong.
God, you make me so mad. You just come up here and lie like all the time. All the time. Jesus. Non-stop lying.
Arguments I've ever imagine appealing to the fact that your like lineage because monkey value, right? Monkey have value. I have value because monkey value.
Right? And worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that.
Pure bullshit. Matt, you just lost. Okay.
Why?
arguments.
Can you believe I gotta play this? This is insane that this is like a debate with Jordan Peterson.
Why do you think it's not in your best interest to have stuff stolen from you or to be thrown off the stage?
Why is it not in my best interest?
Yeah. No, you don't get to think, oh, that's self-evident. It's like nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh. Well, so,
Because if we're going to get skeptical here, we might as well go all the way to the bottom for dictating what's good for us.
no, because if you chop off my head, that is clearly not good for me. And it doesn't matter whether it was an act of free will or if it was my lawnmower.
It's clearly not good for you because you think you're valuable and worth preserving.
Yes.
Okay, that's the issue. Why do you think you're valuable and worth preserving?
Because I am the descendants of people who thought they were valuable and worth
Did he really just say that? Monkey value.
who thought they were valuable and worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think
Why do you think?
Did he really just say that? Monkey value. I can't believe
arguments I've ever imagine appealing to the fact that your like lineage because monkey value, right? Monkey have value. I have value because monkey value.
right? And worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that.
Pure bullshit. Matt, you just lost. Okay.
Why?
monkey. Dude, how do these apes even figure out the internet? They're like, no. Thinking you're made in the image of God, that's antiquated. That's silly. You gotta be progressive, man. You're an ape. You're not an image of God. No, dude, it's progress to the ape. How is that progress? Wait, are humans really how are we going through human progress when we're going from made in the image of God to made in the image of a great ape? That's progress? That seems like we're going backwards there. I ain't no Einstein marrying my first cousin and laying my hands on her for, my own personal pleasure. I ain't doing that, but it doesn't seem like progress to go from it seems like being made in the image of God would be better than being made in the image of a great ape. No, I don't know. I'm dumb though, so I'm a dumb young earth creationist, so my parents were related. Yeah, we're all related, right? We're like related to bananas and we have the same DNA as a banana or something, right? There's an Alex O'Connor video I want to watch titled Atheists Can't Use Reason. A Christian presses Alex. My parents are cousins? Yeah, dude. We're all related, right? We all have the same DNAs. What's funny is like Darwin intermarried with the Wedgwood family. And so Darwin married his first cousin and he had 10 children. And I think 3 or 4 of them were, what are they called? Regenerate. They had genetical issues on account of the first cousin thing. Where's my Darwin picture? I can't find it. So then, like later in his life, he's doing like some experiment with tomatoes. Yeah, and he ran into like genetic problems because of like, can I say the word on TikTok even? intermingling with close relatives. So he had the tomatoes intermingling with close relatives, and the tomatoes had like genetic issues, and so he proved why his children were regenerate. Really? Well, I don't know. Did I read what I read was incorrect? I mean, it's possible. I'm just repeating what I read, but like not everything you read is true. So, Himmy made some pictures. You like that? Neil deGrasse. Yeah, I think intermingling with close relations, it probably wasn't a big problem early on because our genetics, I think our genetics were superior in the early days, and then so I think humans are actually devolving. So I believe in de-evolution. I think in the original humans were like the best humans, and then we've been like becoming dumber and more like enslaved to sin. That's how I see it. There we go. Like in I didn't see the Mario movie. I don't really watch movies. Then we have I'm getting hungry. I'm not sure who that is. Is that Stephen Hawking? For my Greg Botson. I made a bot. I resurrected Greg Botson as an AI. Yeah, I listened to the Tom Rabbit Danny video. I could listen to it right now if you want. You want me to listen to it right now? Here, let me click this so it saves.
Hello to new Sargento 100% natural American.
I need to get YouTube Premium. Let's go. Let's watch the Tom Rabbit video. People love the Tom Rabbit.
We have a little bit of a follow-up. You see, I wasn't the only one who talked to Ryan Mullins, right?
Oh.
Danny, as we all know from Danny Phil Talk, has also
We all
talked
know
to
Danny.
Ryan Mullins. Let's get into it.
Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these.
You know these people are like fake, right? Like they wouldn't debate me.
Hey!
You guys realize none of these people would debate me. They're like scared to debate me. So
Tom Rabbit!
that's also a
Okay,
thing.
so which brings us to, what do you think of like the kind of the
I'm actually banned. So Tom Rabbit has like a Discord, and they just like ruthlessly troll me and dox me and shit, and they fucking like they ban me and call me a troll. So it's like, I don't know if you guys know the Tom Rabbit people. It's like a super toxic. It's like crazy toxic. They're crazy, like hateful backstabbers. They love drama and getting people to fight. So like all Tom is doing here is he's trying to like cause tension between Ryan Mullins and Darth. But he's so dumb.
specific Levantilian Bonson form of precept. What are your thoughts on that?
I can't understand what Van Til's.
Okay, and we should know that Ryan Mullins has said he doesn't even know anything about he doesn't really know anything about precept. So we have two people who don't study precept having a conversation about precept. So this is what's going on here. Two ignorant people that don't know about precept. I think Ryan Mullins is way smarter than me, and so Danny's. I'm not very smart. I'm a dumbass, right? But like, I've read about precept, so I know the topic, and I know that they don't know what they're talking about. So that's what's going on in this conversation, basically.
Up to, and I've not read him in a long time, so it's just
See, I've not read him in a long time. He doesn't even know the topic. Neither does Danny.
difficult for me to competently say.
He has read him. He hasn't read him in a long time.
Right.
And when he did read him, he didn't know what he was up to.
What he's up to. But
right, so he didn't really study it. He didn't really get into it. He probably like surface level looked at precept, right? So what?
A lot of precepts that I see going back to when I was much younger as well into today, what I see them doing is going, my worldview just is coherent without question. And you can't.
My worldview is just here. Let's type what he's saying here into Greg Botson. You know, I don't know. I'm a biased source, right? Well, I suppose Greg Botson's biased too, but so what is he saying here? All we're doing is saying my worldview is coherent. I'll ask Greg is Greg Botson. Is precept just saying my worldview is coherent?
Know anything at all apart from Jesus Christ. And I'm like,
and you can't know anything at all apart from Jesus Christ.
I feel like when my mom was teaching first grade and second grade, like she taught them 2 + 2 = 4, and they knew that, and they're
See, he's thinking that like, so he's making a mistake here, that we're saying that like you have to be a Christian to have knowledge. We're saying that the Christian metaphysics have to be true for anyone to have knowledge. So it's like, you don't have to believe in Jesus to know that 2 + 2 = 4, but Jesus has to metaphysically like be real for you to know 2 + 2 = 4. So he's making this mistake.
Beliefs about Jesus didn't really fit into the picture. Whether or not they had like thought Jesus was, who knows what they thought about Jesus because they're little kids. I feel like that's just completely like a separate issue. Like I don't.
Okay, so he thinks it's knowing 2 + 2 = 4 is separate from like knowing or Jesus Christ being true. So I'll ask Greg Botson to explain this to you. I mean, I could try to explain it to you guys too, but I think sometimes I'm not very articulate. I think the bot's more articulate than me. So Greg Botson, how is Jesus connected to the truth of 2 + 2 = 4? And don't use philosophy and respond as if I don't know philosophy, because I don't know philosophy, guys. All I know is how to prove God. That's all I know. It's the only thing I know in the world. I'm limited to one subject. I'm not very smart, but fortunately, like, atheism is like trash. So you can be like a complete fool and win debates versus atheists as long as you do the precept method. It's like you can't fail. So I asked the bot. So Mullins doesn't see how 2 + 2 = 4 is connected to the truth of Christ. Okay, so how is it connected? Greg Botson, right? And Greg Botson says, Jesus is connected to the truth of 2 + 2 = 4 because he is the foundation of all truth, even math. The Bible says in John 1:3 that all things were made through him. That includes not just trees and stars, but logic, numbers, and math itself. Jesus created the universe to work in an orderly, consistent way, and that includes rules like addition. When we say 2 + 2 = 4, we're trusting that numbers always behave the same way, that they don't randomly change. But why do they behave that way? Why can we trust logic and math to stay consistent? It's not because human minds decided it. We only discovered it. It's because Jesus, as God, built the world with order, logic, and reason. He holds it all together, Colossians 1:17. So math is reliable because the God behind it never changes. So without Jesus, you couldn't explain why math works at all. With Jesus, it makes perfect sense. And I think, so Mullins doesn't really understand this, right? Neither does Danny feel talk.
I don't see how these things connect. What I see from a lot of popular presuppositionalists is this attitude of, you give me some sort of claim, it doesn't matter what, and then I go, by what standard? How do you know that? And somehow me just asking that question is a methodology.
Is a methodology? Question mark?
And I don't see that as a methodology. I just see this as a sometimes interesting question, and then sometimes a question that seems out of place right now. Like, how do I know 2 + 2 = 4? I just do.
It's not out of place because 2 + 2 = 4 relies on logical consistency. And if we're debating, there has to be logical consistency. Yet, if we step on the atheist model of reality and assume what they say to be true, like, they make logical consistency impossible by their own position. That's the argument. They don't get it. They just don't get it.
How do I know that the Earth is round? Well, because
do you guys think that Darth Dawkins would accept this answer from any atheist? How many times has he said, "Why is the sky blue?" And if they say something, it just did.
Yeah, the sky is blue because blue means something as a universal category and reference to the mind of God. Without the mind of God, what's the referent? There is no reference, so it doesn't mean anything. Welcome. Hello. Talk it to me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So the classic question for pre-suppers is, was there a time when you were not a presuppositionalist, and how did you arrive at the presuppositionalist position without starting from presup?
Well, we have approximate starting point with our reason, our sense data, and then there's the ultimate starting point.
So if reason and sense data is sufficient to bring you to certain views that you can say not have contradictions, that you can arrive at the laws of logic.
It's not.
Okay, but you didn't start believing in God, right? You didn't start believing in presuppositionalism.
It's not the point about what I believe. It's the point about what's true of the world.
Yeah, it's how you got there.
It's no.
Either you arrived at presuppositionalists for valid reasons or you didn't, right?
It's about what's true of the world, the foundation. So when we ask questions about the foundation, we do a transcendental analysis. We can see that God's going to be necessary as the ultimate starting point or ultimate reality.
I mean, if you want to do the cosmological argument, that's different than a presuppositionalist argument.
Yeah, but that's a bad argument. So because we disagree about starting points to evaluate reality. That's where the disagreement is. So that's why we have to do presup, because that's where we disagree. If we talk about anything other than presup, then we're ignoring the real issue. We're talking about surface level things that don't really matter.
Sure. Let's say you're born into the world, right? And then you grow up, you're age 14, and let's say you're still an atheist. Could you come to believe in God for valid reasons?
Well, I wasn't always a Christian. I didn't become a Christian until I was 37, so I don't understand the question.
So then it is possible to arrive at presup without starting from presup, right?
Well,
I want to get a yes or no on that.
I don't know what does it mean to arrive at so like, was I a Christian before I was a Christian before I knew the transcendental argument for God? Yeah. So what?
The question is whether there are valid reasons to believe in presup without first starting from presup.
Dude, it's an argument. What are you talking about? It's a gauntlet.
Yes,
it's
not an argument that you were persuaded to, right?
It's actually not so much of an argument as it's a gauntlet. You know what a gauntlet is?
It's a series of questions that you ask people and they trip up on.
A gauntlet is
That's what it actually means.
A gauntlet is a challenge. So when we do a transcendental analysis, we say like God's going to be like necessary for, I don't know, like logic or uniformity of nature or morals. Okay, and so then like I would be challenging you. How do you explain those things without God? Because those things are necessary to debate, and you're debating. So unless you can explain those things, you're contradicting yourself when you show up to the debate, and you're proving Christianity by even trying to argue. That's the argument.
Sure. So take the law of non-contradiction, right? You could start from sense data. You could start from your reasons around the world and say, hey, two things don't seem to ever appear in the same place. They don't ever appear to be exactly the same thing. It seems like two things can't be the same thing at the same time in the same place. So there's a sort of physical non-contradiction.
You don't understand. You don't understand. The preconditions for like logic or knowledge, those preconditions are going to be revealed or they're going to be arbitrary.
Yes, the argument I'm giving is that they are arrived at through sense data, through applying your empirical observations to your logical thoughts.
They're not.
Yes.
No, you're wrong.
Yep.
Well, you don't know what you're talking about because logic has to be true before you even use your sense data. Because
logic doesn't have to be true. Logic's a tool.
You're a tool. Well, if logic doesn't have to be true, then you're contradicting yourself by arguing. Then you're just a huge contradiction. So I don't know. Do you want to debate my bot? Because you're just like lying at this point, contradicting yourself. So it's like kind of pointless talk.
Where's the contradiction, right? If the claim is that you start not knowing presup.
I mean, would you say logic is just a tool or something? Like,
yep, it's a tool for structuring thought in a way that tends to be closer to truth.
That we just make up? You're saying humans just...
We choose forms of logic that tend to produce truer beliefs. That's the idea.
That is a lie, and you're bullshitting me because that's not... Logic can't function if what you're saying is true. Like, if we're driving in traffic and everyone in traffic is just doing whatever the fuck they want, traffic won't function. And it's the same with logic. If there's no logical consistency and everyone's just logicking however the hell they want, logic doesn't function. So you're totally bullshitting, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. Sure. So do you want to debate my bot, or do you want to get bounced?
I mean, you can bounce me. You just haven't given a counter argument to what I've said. People can arrive at it from sense data.
What you're saying is nonsense. All right, do you know what aloha means?
Go ahead.
Do you know what aloha means?
Hello and goodbye. You kicking me?
Yeah, goodbye. I don't believe in logical consistency, but I'm debating you and I'm asking for proof for God. Well, if there's no logical consistency, then here's the proof for God. God exists because God exists.
I don't know, and he says no. He won't accept it, right? He won't accept it. He won't accept it.
Some evidence, like it depends on the thing, and the answer is not going to be because Jesus Christ is Lord or something. Like I feel like that's a weird leap to get there.
What's that, Ryan? What's that, Ryan?
Like I feel like that's a weird leap to get there. Jesus Christ is Lord or something. Like I feel like that's a weird leap to get there.
You're a weird leap, Ryan Mullins.
Yeah, so there's like the argument, and we can like be, there's like the tag format, or a transcendental argument, whatever that is in the first place, and then how they might defend the premises. There's that, and we can be critical of that, which I am. I don't think any of it works. But then there's the strategy, which is, I'm on the other side of the aisle here. I'm like,
Then there's their strategy. I mean, their tactics are underhanded. See, what you got to do is just go up there and say, look, I'm just an atheist. I don't have a position. I'm neutral. When we all know you can't be epistemically neutral, but that's not a sleazy standard. See, to pretend you're epistemically neutral when that's in reality impossible, that's not sleazy. But what's sleazy is when the precepts say, hey,
You can't be epistemically neutral. That's sleazy because that's true. See, what we got to do is lie. I'm Danny Feel Talk. I really feel like atheism is true. Oh.
Since I'm an atheist and I talk to Christians often, it's this tactic where, like, you know, this notion of transcendental, which might amount to like logic, intelligibility, moral values, etc. You know.
Yeah, Tom doesn't understand tag. You should listen to him talk to Jay Dyer. Tom just does this. Tom goes to talk to Jay Dyer and literally asks him the same question like 8 times in a row. Jay Dyer answers it 8 times. It's these atheists they're just total sophists, and like people like Sir, who's like he's into history or whatever, and he doesn't understand logic and philosophy. He just believes them because they're confident, and they make fun of Christians who he doesn't like. So it's just like we're dealing with a bunch of emotionally stunted, you know, young males. That's all it is.
The reliability of your sense percent. Oh, you know, the whole list of stuff. And what I notice happens is that they ask you how you account for these things, epistemologically, how you account for these things. And the hope is that they give some stupid answer.
Bro, I can't win a debate. They won't even debate my bot. Get an atheist bot. I'll debate any atheist bot. Fucking atheist human, atheist bot. I don't see a difference.
Or they're unable to, or they just say, I don't know how to ground those things. And then they take a W from that as like that has anything to do with justifying the premises that they laid out in the argument or any of defense of them.
Yeah.
Right. And
Okay. This is exactly what Darth does. Not only will he think he got a W, he'll say things like, game over, lights out, and
you're done.
Start to do his little crotch chop or whatever he's doing. Ryan Mullins is laughing at this behavior. Let's watch it again.
That, as like that has...
In the video, he zooms in on Ryan Mullins laughing. It's so funny.
Anything to do with...
He's laughing at you, Darth.
Justifying...
Oh my God, he laughed. Oh my God. Jeez, we're going to have to stop doing tag. You guys, Ryan Mullins laughed. I thought tag was true. But this whole time. But Ryan Mullins laughed. So the argument... that is a clear defeater for tag. I never thought about this before. Ryan Mullins laughed. Oh, so tag's not true. What a bad argument.
That they laid out in the argument or any of defense of them.
Yeah. And he says, yeah.
Right. And it's just this horrible tactic because the questions they ask are questions that I can...
It's a horrible tactic. The honest thing is to just be, never tell them your position and pretend you're just like a neutral, interpreting data from totally neutral. And that's what the good tactic is. And then you make them to prove their thing and you don't prove your thing. See, they have to prove their thing and I don't have to prove my thing. That's what we should do. That's honest.
Fairly answer, right? Like they literally go through Bertrand Russell's 10 the problems of philosophy and they
literally talk about problems in philosophy. It's like, oh my God, you want to talk about problems in philosophy? Like, I'm Danny Feel Talk. I'm not Danny Philosophy Talk. We're here to talk about what we feel is true. You know, it like seems like atheism is true. And I feel like an empiricist.
Ask each question and then expect you to have answers when like not, even the most, some of the greatest philosophers of all time are unsettled by some of those questions.
Right.
So I think
why are we talking about they want to talk about philosophy? I mean, I'm Danny Feel Talk, and they want to talk about philosophy. I mean, it's just a tactic. It's one of these like debate tactics where your opponent talks about philosophy. I mean, like it's so dishonest.
Actually, I mean, I don't want to say it's intrinsically disingenuous, but it should be. You should realize if you're running this argument, like that particular strategy of.
It's so disingenuous to bring up problems in philosophy. It's totally disingenuous.
Of interaction, I think that it should be.
Oh my God, it's so painful. Dude.
What do you think?
Oh. I think that's right because when I was in my doing my PhD, I remember one of my office mates asking me, "What do you think of like Bonson and presuppositionalism, and I was like, that's still a thing. And this would have been like 2010, and so I was shocked that this still was a thing at that point. And so now here we are in 2024, and I'm still shocked.
You know what? God, I'm gonna look up the quote. I'm gonna look up what Bonson says. Let's see if I can find it.
That this is a thing. And so I was asking, like, get me up to speed. What's going on? And it was exact.
Okay, the way he just said that, but here's what's so frustrating. We know this. We know that academia doesn't take our arguments seriously. We're not like what? Academia doesn't take tags here. Whoa. We know this. Bonson says this. It doesn't matter though. Bonson is an academic. He has a PhD in philosophy too, and he specializes in epistemology. And he got his degree from a prestigious school for philosophy, the Southern California University, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Van Til, Cornelius, I mean, his first name is Cornelius. If your first name's Cornelius, don't you think that you're probably like really smart? I mean, he probably got picked on and stuff, you know? He probably didn't have any friends, so like, who's going to play with Cornelius? You're not going to invite, hey, Cornelius, do you want to, no one's going to play with Cornelius. So he probably just like, all he had to do is read books. No one would want to like hang out with him, right? So he's probably really smart. And he got a PhD from Princeton. And is that like a good school or something? He was like a professor at Princeton. Is that a good school? I mean, so it's like, who cares? We have academics and like philosophers, like when do philosophers ever agree on anything? It's like they're professional contrarians, pretty much. Let's see here. Does Van Til succumb? Blah blah blah. Let's see if I can. I want to find that Bonson quote. I'm probably not. I should actually just write this down because this keeps coming up. Or like people are like, "Oh, academia doesn't." Here, I think it's right here. Why talk? Yeah, okay. This is Bonson, right? Why talk about transcendental arguments in certain narrow areas of philosophical study? There is discussion of transcendental arguments going on, but I would expect a broad cross section of the Christian church to be interested just because I would not expect a broad cross section of Christian church to be interested just because some philosophers are talking about something arcane like transcendental arguments. Okay. Here he says, in fact, okay, he says, I'm going to explain why I think it is so important that we as Christians take a look at this subject. It's not just because there is a narrow interest in it in philosophy. In fact, to be honest, I am a little surprised that there is any interest in it at all among philosophers. This is Bonson. I'm quoting Bonson, not Botson. Bonson. Great. This is the actual Greg Bonson speaking. I am a little surprised that there is any interest in it at all among philosophers in regards to transcendental arguments. So who cares? We know this. Like, duh. They think this is some gotcha. They're so dumb. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I do be fine.
Wonderful. Glad to hear it. I got a question about something you just said. You said because Cornelius Van Til had a weird name, he was probably smart.
Yeah, didn't you hear my reasoning? Like no one would want to be
No,
friends.
you didn't give a reason.
If you don't have
Could
friends,
you
then
flesh
like,
that
what
out
are you
for
gonna
me,
do?
please?
What are you gonna do? Like they don't have video games.
I'm asking, can you flesh that out for me?
Yeah, they didn't have video games, so if you don't have friends, all you can do is read books. So you probably just sat there around reading books.
So, like, at the time, there were no video games anywhere. Does that mean everybody back then was smart?
No, because some people have friends, and then so they're probably goofing off with his peers were goofing off with their friends. Cornelius was like reading books, like he said.
Can you give me the argument for a lack of friends makes you smarter?
No, I'm not going to give you an argument for that.
No?
No.
Is there an argument for that?
I mean,
give me the inference.
I feel like what you're doing here is I think you're being asinine.
It's not a legitimate question. You made a claim, and I'm asking for the argument to support it.
Yeah, but dude, I was clearly like speaking tongue in cheek, and you're being
All right.
asinine.
You want to talk about the Bible?
I mean, do you want to prove atheism?
I want to talk about the Bible.
Well, of course you do, because you can't prove atheism.
So, look, number 3 is, what does your number 3, no slavery in ancient Israel, have to do with atheism?
Nothing. Well, the fact that all the atheists lie and slander the God of the Bible and say that he...
Yeah, but that's not a direct inference about atheism.
So what? I'm here to...
So that's a discussion about the Bible, correct?
I fight. This is about fighting the lies of atheism.
So I'm going to make an atheist lie about the Bible, and then you're going to defend it, right? The Bible. Or show me I'm wrong.
Why don't you make an argument for atheism? Will you concede
I'm
that...
going to make an argument against the Bible.
Here, look. I want you to
There are
concede...
contradictions in the Bible.
Okay,
That's my first premise.
Okay, whatever. I'll let you talk about your dumb contradictions, but can you at least concede that atheism is irrational?
No, I won't concede it.
Well, then give me a rationale or an argument for atheism.
No, I asked first. I want to
I'm
talk
gonna
about
kick
the
you.
Bible.
No, you can give me an argument, concede, or kick.
Do you know the Bible?
Okay, I'm going to kick
Have
you.
you read the Bible?
Last chance. No, I've never read the Bible. I just prove it's true. Last
How
chance.
can you prove something true that you haven't read? How is that rational?
Because I read the book, The Objective Proof for Christianity. So
Yeah,
last
but you
chance.
could insert anything in the place of Christianity.
One last chance.
You don't know the doctrine. You can drop me, Mars.
Atheism is
I'll
true.
just take the win.
Atheism is true because...
Atheism isn't a proposition.
Atheism is true because...
Come on, let's talk about the Bible.
Oh, too bad. So sad. Aw. 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 Oh, I lost my YouTube thing. No. Why does that happen? Oh, man. People are chirping in the comments. I was doing the review, though.
Does a rising tide really lift all boats?
So I can show you guys Greg Botson in action, I guess. Greg Botson. Okay, so here's how this works. Let me see here. I'll turn my camera on. Okay, never mind that. So this is Greg Botson, and then this is YouTube, right? So then here we have people chirping. Just talking rad crap. What is this guy talking crap to me? They're all talking crap. Wow, mad people talking crap. They respond to this. You aren't understanding the fictional God is also claimed to be defining. Blah, blah. What does it say? So this guy's comment. Of course, you are willing to answer questions just like you recently did on my video after 2 week quit. Very shallow responses. Third final comeback. Nothing really. Oh, this guy's unhinged. I'm not even gonna respond to that. So what does this guy say? Okay, so it seems that at least at the moment YouTube hid my reply. Feel free to scroll down from the newest comments if you want to read it. I'm not going to start wrestling with the comment system. Probably a lie. I don't know, that seems like a lot of work. I would see his reply. No, I see it. Is this it? Didn't I reply to this though? You aren't understanding the fictional God also claimed to be defining morality, not adjusting to it. So you come on my tag. I responded to that. So he didn't respond back. He just said his comment's hidden. But why his comment wouldn't be hidden, it should come up in my feed. He's lying, I think. I don't know, maybe he's not.
Okay, so if we define knowledge objectively, only God can make knowledge truly possible. You realize the definition you offered, as well as all definitions, are in fact subjective. What? What a stupid thing to say. Okay, so I copy this. We go to Greg Botson. I go, hey, Greg Botson, this YouTube comment says this. Let's wait. I want to say this. Okay, and I put the comment here, and I'm gonna tell him let's respond concisely, because people have like a 5-second attention span, especially atheists. And I've spelled concisely wrong because I can't spell. Okay, so then we just bam, copy paste. What does he say? If all definitions are subjective, then your claim that my definition is subjective is also just your opinion, self-defeating. The Christian worldview uniquely grounds objective knowledge because God is the standard, not human preference. Without God, all you're left with is subjectivity. Got him. Wrecked these nuts. Boom. Greg Botson in action there. Just instantly destroys them. Like I don't have to put any effort into it. What does he say here? When I say God has knowledge, I don't mean he has justified true belief like we do. So you're just equivocating. So let's clear that. God has something different from human knowledge. If we apply the typical Christian apologetics principle of only X begets X, then God can't give rise to human knowledge because God doesn't have human knowledge. Since this breaks your principle of only X begets X, then it undermines what is he even talking about? If only X begets X, then everything would be God. What is he even talking about? Man, these people are confused. Wannabe philosophers. So then I just type this dumb thing into Greg Botson. I go, hey, Greg Botson, let's respond concisely to this YouTube comment. And spelling everything wrong, because who cares? The bot can understand me. The bot understands me, so like my spelling errors don't matter. Me and this bot, we go way back. And then bam, what's the bot say? I don't even know. I trust it. The bot says, you're confusing kind with source. God's knowledge isn't justified true belief because he doesn't believe. He knows exhaustively and immediately human knowledge. Oh, period. Human knowledge is derivative, a finite reflection of his infinite mind. Only X begets X applies in essence, not in imitation or limitation. What? Only X begets X applies in essence, not in limitation. I wonder what that means. I don't really understand what that means. You don't need omniscience to have knowledge. You need a God who is omniscient to make knowledge possible. True. What does this mean, though? Only X applies in essence, not in limitation. What does he mean by that? What do you mean by applies in essence, not in limitation? That we don't need God to have the same kind of perfect infinite knowledge. Wait, we don't need to be God or have the same kind of perfect infinite knowledge he has, but we need to be made in his image, sharing in the essence of rationality, logic, and truth-seeking. God is the source of those things, and he communicates them to us in a limited, creaturely way. Okay, so only X begets X means knowledge can only come from a mind, not chance or matter, but it doesn't mean the creature's knowledge has to be infinite, like the creator's. God's perfect knowledge grounds our limited knowledge. That's essence, not limitation. I'll say this to him too to help clarify, I guess.
Boom, Greg Botson. See, I'm just gonna sit there in YouTube comments and it's just like instantly destroying all atheists. And I can share this bot with anyone if anyone's interested in it. So, and this is where you atheists are headed. That's where you're going. It says hell. So anyways, that's Greg Botson. Oh, we can finish this Ryan Mullins thing. What's going on here? Did this shut off? Oh no, why isn't it? The video's not playing. Why do I not hear it? What?
Questions. I'm like, yeah, those.
So yeah, if you want to hear your video, you have to turn the volume up. So that's a tip.
Thing. It's kind of the same way you or I would when we first learned about there's actually flat earthers on the internet, right? The reason we're surprised that it's still a thing is because it's so dumb.
Exactly the sort of stuff you're describing, where it's I just ask these big questions and I'm like, yeah, those are all the questions I am deeply interested in answering, but do I have good answers to them? Of course not. Like I'm just trying to figure it out, and so I don't see it as if I stump someone because I'm like, how does like mathematics all hang together? And I'm like, that's a really difficult question, and if I don't have an answer, that's not an automatic win for theism. As far as
No, Ryan. If you don't have an answer, it's game over, lights out, right?
as I can tell, I feel like I've got a lot more legwork to do to get the win for theism on that.
The only appreciation I have for pre-subs really is kind of the same, like what a flat earth, if you ever talk to someone that believes in flat earth, you know, most people are not really prepared.
This is such a dumb comment. You know what? Danny like argues like a flat earther.
To defend.
Actually, Danny's a little bit better, I guess. He's a little more sophisticated, emphasis on the sophist.
The globe earth, right? Like, you know, and so when a flat earth is asking you questions, then you're like, oh my gosh, like maybe I should know more about why I think the earth is round. I mean, like, so yeah, they're asking really heavy questions, like, and so it pushes me to like go and try to figure some of these problems out. But as far as an apologetic, I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And yeah, I think it's.
Ooh, Darth, that's got a sting. Let's listen to that one again.
Some of these problems out, but as far as an apologetic, I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And I think it's.
Do you know why he's saying and agreeing that it's absolutely the wrong way to go?
Yeah, because none of them understand precept at all, and they've gotten everything they've said about it wrong.
Because he thinks it's trash. That's why.
No, that's prejudicial conjecture. He said he didn't want to call it trash because he didn't know the argument. And so from his perspective, his limited knowledge on the subject matter, he doesn't really understand it. So of course he's not going to think it's a good argument. He doesn't even really understand it. He's like a very surface level knowledge of it.
Usually terribly ineffective. But
nodding. He's nodding that it's ineffective. He's nodding that it's not the way to go.
It isn't. I mean, it's not like, what do you mean ineffective? Like, what's effective? Like, do you think you're supposed to? So, why isn't it effective? Like, I haven't heard Danny say like, what is the logic? It's all about. I haven't heard much Phil talk. It's a lot of feel talk. You know.
Smiling and laughing at it.
But it seems like we agree on that, and that's good to hear.
Nodding in agreement. He agrees.
Which brings us to, what do you think about young Earth creationism?
This is not related, but let's go ahead and listen to this really quickly, a little bit of extra content.
It was a view I held when I was a teenager, because my biology teacher at the Christian school I went to was very hell-bent, that's the right word for it, very hell-bent on young Earth creationism. And then I discovered later the Bible teachers were not hell-bent on this, because they studied stuff. I don't know. I don't want to say anything mean, so I'll stop right there. Anyways.
And here we can see that, Ryan is trying to be diplomatic, right? He's tempering his language. That doesn't mean he doesn't think these views are trash. He obviously thinks these views are trash.
I think he's tempering his language because he's like a Christian. I don't think it has anything to do with, like, he's not trying to, like,
just won't say it that way.
So as I went on into like my college education,
I think he's like has some humility too.
And I started learning about a lot of different options that Christians have and the different debates and the history of these debates, and started to realize, oh, young earth creationism is not the only option. It really isn't. And there's really good arguments for thinking that we do not have to affirm that as we're reading scripture. And so that's the view I affirm now, is that young earth creationism is false. The scientific evidence, I think, is quite good for a very, very old universe. Well, okay. I mean, relative to other things, I guess. I mean, 13 billion years.
Don't tell Darth that, right?
Give or take a billion. That feels old to me, but it's definitely older than, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 years. And there's a weird history to young earth creationism being very popular in America, where it's not popular in other parts of the Christian world. And part of that has to do with some weird things that were happening in the 1960s and 1970s in America. So there's this whole like sociological history of what's going on there too, of why young earth creationism is so popular and presented as if it's the only option in America, whereas most other places it was never really considered as the only option. It's not been that popular of a view throughout Christian history.
Okay, so not a fan is what I'm.
That's the short answer. Yeah.
Yeah. And Darth knew that his wife's like a biologist and he believes in evolution. Darth knew that. So good job. Great video, Tom. It does nothing. Good job. I think I want to take a break and make some food. What specific science is theistic? Any science. All science would rely on the principle of the uniformity of nature, or the fact that we can know the natural world, that our mind is in contact with the objects of the natural world. And so we need a single unifying principle to do science, and that's God. Ay. I just gotta one more time, I just love this. Is like my favorite clip, I think.
Why do you think it's not in your best interest to have stuff stolen from you or to be thrown off the stage?
Why is it not in my best interest?
Yeah. No, you don't get to think, oh, that's self-evident. It's like nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh. Well, so...
Because if we're going to get skeptical here, we might as well go all the way to the bottom for dictating what's good for us.
No, because if you chop off my head, that is clearly not good for me. And it doesn't matter whether it was an act of free will or if it was my lawnmower.
It's clearly not good for you because you think you're valuable and worth preserving.
Yes.
Okay, that's the issue. Why do you think you're valuable and worth preserving?
Because I am the descendants of people who thought they were valuable and worth
Did he really just say that? Monkey value.
Who thought they were valuable and worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that.
It's insane that he said that.
Arguments I've ever imagine appealing to the fact that your like lineage, because monkey value, right? Monkey have value. I have value because monkey value.
Right? And worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that.
Pure bullshit. Matt, you just lost. Okay.
Why?
Monkey. And how do these apes even figure out the internet? What's that song? Apes.
Crap, I spelled it wrong. Well, there's this really awesome song, Planet of the Apes by Clutch.
Look at us, we're so humble without God. We can laugh at ourselves, we are so humble. Our way is better, we can feel it. There is no meaning, we'll reveal it. We are monkeys and we live for peace. Apes together strong. Apes together strong.
Apes together strong.
Apes together strong.
Yay, apes.
Apes together strong.
Apes together strong. Oh, good Lord. Welcome.
What's up?
What's up, man?
Number 4 is stupid.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, I don't know how you can disagree with it.
What is child sacrifice to you?
When you sacrifice a child to something like whatever, like a false idol.
So what would in your view, it's murder. So I guess what would the woman be sacrificing it to?
You have to say schmurder. A false
murder. Sorry, my bad.
A false idol could be like money, or it could be like bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy is a false idol. So I have a question for you. Just a question to like draw back to this. Do you think that not wanting to be like a servant or a slave is a false idol? Because that's bodily autonomy, right?
It could be. Yeah, it could be. It depends. Anything can be a false idol. It all depends on like if you value it more than God or not.
Well, that's a totally different thing, right? Because
no, that's what a false idol is.
No, you value bodily autonomy, right?
Okay, a false idol is valuing something more than you value God. That's what a false idol is. So it could be anything. And he just runs away.
Apes together strong.
Nature is our savior, but it's impartial. Trust me, nothing matters. Harden your heart too. We can laugh at ourselves, we are so humble. Our way is better, we can feel it. There is no meaning, we'll reveal it. We are monkeys and we live for peace. Apes together strong.
Apes together strong. Apes together strong. Apes together strong.
Nature is our savior, but it's impartial. Trust me, nothing matters. Harden your heart too. We are related to bananas. Don't be embarrassed, we eat our cousins. Till a monkey shuffle. Till a monkey shuffle. Till a monkey shuffle. Till a monkey shuffle.
That was beautiful. Who wants to do some science? Man, I want to prove evolution right now. I'm so hyped. What did he say there? Welcome. Hello, hello. What would you like to say?
So I saw like point 4 on there. And I wanted to like ask like how do you think abortion is like child sacrifice? I thought it was a really interesting like theistic point.
I mean, child sacrifice is something humans been doing forever. That in the Bible they did it to Moloch, and today abortion. And so you're putting like a modern day like scientific technological like framework over something that's ancient. It's just an abortion is just an ancient practice of child sacrifice that humans been doing forever, and we should stop, because if you don't, God will destroy your nation for doing that crap.
So like just like politically speaking, like do you think that like all abortions should be outlawed, or
yeah, or America will be destroyed? Mark my words.
Okay, I do understand what you're saying, like the whole God's wrath thing, especially in the Old Testament for disobedience like that. I do understand where you're coming from there, but like just from a political standpoint, and I'm assuming you're American.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, do you think that like all abortions should be outlawed, or do you think there should be like some exceptions to the rule?
Well, it depends. So I would define abortion as like intentionally unaliving a preborn baby. So if the intention is to like save the mother's life, I would put that in a different category, because there's a totally different intention in it.
Right. And then like, what do you think about like victims of like rape and stuff like that? Do you think that they should have to carry the baby if their life isn't in danger, or do you think?
Yeah, I think the rapist should be punished, and then we should not punish the baby who didn't do anything wrong and is innocent and doesn't have a voice to defend himself.
Well, I'm sorry, could you like repeat like the first like couple words? You kind of cut out on my side.
Yeah, we should punish the rapist and not the innocent, baby can't have a voice to defend himself. These babies don't even have a voice, and they're being oppressed.
Right. But what about the mother the victim who does have a voice? Do you think that like they should be able to elect to choose whether or not, because it's very traumatizing, I feel, for a woman or a girl who's
but two wrongs don't make it right. It's not going to make it. Okay, but there's one. So if something wrong happens, we don't do something else wrong to make it right, because now we have two wrongs. Now we have more trauma, because now they go through the trauma of the abortion, which a lot of women regret. And then she has to live with that on her conscience, that she unalived her own child the rest of her life. So let's save her from that.
Well, I also don't think that...
What?
I also don't think that in this case, the victim would exactly view the fetus in her womb as her own child, because she didn't have a hand in making it. I understand that actions have consequences,
lots of women,
and, but it wasn't her choice to ever have that baby, especially whenever
it doesn't matter what you think. Okay, that's just your opinion, though. Let's talk about something I like to call reality. In reality, there's lots of women that regret and now have to live with that guilt their whole life, and they can never. That's permanent. And so we need to prevent that. And instead of having guilt, they'll have a beautiful baby.
But it's not beautiful because every time they have to look at that baby, they're going to see the victim of their assaulter. They're going to see someone who took.
See, this is atheism. Babies aren't beautiful. What is it? What is it? Do you think it's just like a monkey or something? What happened to apes together strong? I thought you apes got to stick together. Did you leave? Oh, you left. Welcome.
I just want to add that this study that you gave about abortion and women having psychological problems because of abortion, it's untrue. Those psychological problems, they come because of society taboo. So when society guilts the woman,
That's insane. That's flat earth level. That's just such a lie. I know for a fact. My mom worked with women who had my mom worked with women that went through this, so you don't know what you're talking about. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So I want to talk about abortion too. It's like fetuses aren't really alive. They don't breathe. They don't think. It's like cooking an egg. It's like there's still, it could be something out of it, but it's not alive yet.
Have you ever heard the idea of like walking a mile in another person's shoes before you judge them?
Well, yeah, I think you would probably learn for that because
you think that's
the
good?
women that have to deal with getting raped, they have to, if they become pregnant, that's just, they'll traumatize them. Some they can die also from when their child is born.
Well, if you're
So technically, you're not really gaining anything.
Here's the problem though, when you create a system of oppression to arbitrarily, by an arbitrary standard, mind you, remember, arbitrary standards say this human being is not a human being, that leads to like, that system will come back and oppress you. You just have to give it time. So you don't want to do that. This is not good thinking. You're not thinking correctly about this matter. You're just going to end up oppressing yourself. So we gotta protect every human being in our society as if they're made in God's image and they deserve dignity and freedom. Or you don't have dignity and freedom.
Okay. Anyway, I also wanted to talk about Christianity. You said it's objectively proven according to you, but I have yet to see any proof.
Well, the proof is like all around you because facts are theory laden. So what that means is there has to be a story behind the fact to have a fact. For example, imagine a movie where none of the scenes in the movie were connected. And none of the characters were all the characters were different in every scene and nothing connected in the movie. The movie has no story. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make sense. And so it's the same thing with facts. Facts require a story. And it just happens to be that the unique, indispensable story to make facts facts is the story we find in the Bible. If you deny that narrative, you're denying facts themselves.
I don't understand how that proves a God. So because a book has a story, does that mean it's real?
You have to assume, because to say God isn't a fact would be a claim about facts. That would require a system of facts. And you would have no system to make sense of facts without the Christian model of reality.
Okay, so we have there are a lot of scientific theories about literally everything in this world, and God does not fit in any of them. Like, there is no proof. I still don't understand what the proof is. We have no concrete proof.
The proof for God is that you couldn't prove anything without God. I just gave you the proof. It is concrete, right?
No, we haven't like seen a God. Like we can't prove that Jesus actually.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Think about a bridge. Okay, you have conceptual rules
like logic and math that go into designing the bridge, but you also have physical rules like gravity, and the conceptual rules have to prevent like gravity from making the bridge collapse. Okay? So those two sets of rules, conceptual and physical, but they fit together like puzzle pieces, right?
Okay.
Because based on the math, if the math is wrong, the bridge collapses, right? Because so the math has a real world application. It's real, but math is just conceptual. It doesn't exist in the real world. So we have to connect this like rational world to the irrational world, and the only way you can connect that is through God. If God designs and creates math, and God designs existence and creates the rules of like scientific laws, laws of nature. God creates the math law and God creates the science law, and then they can fit together like puzzle pieces. If you deny that, it'd be like taking two random puzzle pieces, jigsaw puzzle pieces that aren't designed to fit together. They're not going to fit together. They only fit together if they're designed. So without God, we couldn't like build a bridge. Yet you drive over the bridge, so you must believe in God, whether you admit it or not. You probably suppress the truth and unrighteousness because it's so obvious that there's a God.
Okay, so the idea of math comes from our brains. Like there are no proof that God invented math or something.
Wrong.
If that's what you think.
No, it can't. That's wrong. You're wrong. Because math.
So we don't have brains.
We don't create math. We discover math. It doesn't make sense to say humans create math. It doesn't work.
We can't invent. No, we can't find out about like theory or like some calculations. Like that's not. It's not really concrete. As you said.
Math is discovered. Humans don't create it. You can't make that move. That would be lying.
So how did math get discovered?
God creates math, and we use our minds made in the image of God to think logically and discover math.
Yeah, but what did we discover math from?
The mind, divine conceptualism. It exists in the mind of God.
Okay.
We have access to the mind of God
then,
in the image of God.
Okay, but then prove it.
I just did. So think about a bridge, right? You have a concept of the bridge, like the blueprint, right? If a guy, and then you have a guy who constructs a bridge. That's the concrete bridge. Not like the real. There's a bridge in reality, and then there's the concept of the bridge on the blueprint.
Yes.
Okay. If I build a bridge, but I don't have the blueprint, is the blueprint going to fit the bridge? No, right?
No.
Right. So the only way the blueprint can fit the bridge is if it comes from the same mind or the same group.
Okay.
So it's the same thing for the only way math can fit onto the like physical reality is if it comes from the same mind. So unless God designs math, unless God designs math and God designs the physical rules, it wouldn't make sense for them to fit together. Just like the builder constructing the bridge, it's not going to fit onto the blueprint if they don't connect, if he doesn't use the blueprint.
So how do you know that God is the mind that you're talking about?
Because he revealed it. If you deny that, you're saying that something else connects math to the physical world so that we can build bridges. And then I would ask, well, what is the something else? And then you're going to go, duh, I don't know, duh. You have to mooch from metaphysics when you drive over a bridge.
Well, you could say that math is, it's definitely all theories and theoretical, but it is kind of connected to the world a bit.
It's real, dude, real.
It's connected to physics.
Dude, it's not just theories. We design things using math, and if the math is wrong, like the helicopter crashes or the airplane crashes, because math is real. It's not just something we make up in a fantasy, and it affects reality.
It's a bit like physics. It's like rules we create that we kind of see math in a way.
All you're doing is ignoring what I'm saying, and now you're preaching, and what you're saying, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what we're doing here. So you're just ignoring evidence,
You probably just emotionally want atheism to be true. And that's all this is. You're emotionally stunted. This isn't an intellectual issue. Why the hell would you want atheism to be true? You want to be a monkey? Don't you want to be made in the image of a god?
It's not about wanting to be something. It's about actually coming from something.
Right. I just gave you evidence.
So much evidence.
Dude, I just gave you evidence and you ignored it. So clearly you don't give a shit about evidence and you just believe what you want to be true. So why the hell do you want to be a monkey who, when you die, there's no meaning, there's no purpose? Why the hell do you want that to be true? What's wrong with you? Who hurt you?
No one hurt me. I'm just trying to say that there is a lot.
Liar. Malcolm, what would you like to say?
Hey, I'm sorry about that. I feel like we got on the wrong foot. We kind of like did a.
I don't even remember. It's fine. I don't even remember.
It was abortion. We kind of got into a political argument about it. But I want to go back to more like a theistic approach, like your point 4 said originally on the other image. When you said abortion was child sacrifice, I just kind of want to go back to that because, like, I do agree, like, in the Bible, we see, like, the child sacrifice to Moloch and other deities that the Israelites were fighting their people. I do agree with that. But it was also, like, structured, sort of, if you will. Like, they would actually have, like, ritualistic practices. Abortion is a medical procedure, not a ritualistic practice, because they would have to, like, do certain things, like, in the actual sacrifice and take it to an altar and stuff like that. It wasn't just, you know, choosing an abortion. It was.
What are you talking about, dude?
So, okay, modern day abortion is a medical procedure. The child sacrifice that you described to Moloch in the Bible was...
Okay, but that's just a label, right? You're labeling a child sacrifice and you're just changing the label to medical procedure. It's like when propaganda got a bad name because of Yahtzee Germany, and so they just changed the label from propaganda to public relations. So changing the label doesn't change the concept. It's still the same concept.
Well, like I said, child sacrifice in the Old Testament, when you related it to Moloch, was ritualistic. They had their practices, and they had to take the child to the altar, and depending on
what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is, there was ritualistic, like,
there's rituals in abortion too. They like washing your hands is like a ritual before the abortion. That's a type of a ritual.
Washing your hands gets rid of bacteria so that you don't contaminate.
It's a ritual. It's a ritual. There's rituals.
Do you believe in bacteria?
What does ritual mean? Doesn't it mean just like doing something like it's a good
I mean, there's a difference between ritualistic practices, like stuff you would do before something, after something, or for something.
It's just a set of actions or words performed in a regular way. So they have rituals.
Right, but this was a religious ritual.
Yeah, well, abortion is. I would say abortion. I think it's religious. It's a cult of death.
Well, okay, so like from your standpoint, with the whole
they worship. Yeah. They worship death. It's like a death cult, right? So I'd say it's religious.
So do you believe it's a death cult if a woman saves her life by getting an abortion?
No, because that's not an abortion. So when the intention is to save the life of a woman, an abortion is when the intention is to unalive a preborn baby or sacrifice the preborn baby to your death cult.
Okay, so what if a 10-year-old, say, gets assaulted and gets pregnant? Should that child have to carry another child?
What if you stopped promoting child sacrifice? What if you stopped doing that?
Well, I don't think we have an agreement.
Well, what if because you've arbitrarily decided, like, oh, we can have this standard and make exceptions for child sacrifice. Well, what if someone arbitrarily decides to sacrifice you?
That's not the same thing. I'm a person. This is a fetus.
It is the same thing. You're just in denial. Hey, Tony. I probably don't want to stay on here too long. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I figured. I was like, I'm pretty adept at the abortion topic. I figured I'd jump in on.
A bunch of people have been hitting me with abortion today. I think it's like not even like it's just the debate's over. It's like how do you even argue for that? That this you can't like.
Dude, do you have Discord? Because if you want, I can send you the ways to deal with challenges if you want to start brushing yourself up on.
Can you tell me your name and I can add you, or do you want to?
Message me because the way I got my privacy set up on Discord, I have to like send directly a link or something like that. But you know, DM me and I'll hit you up, bro. I'll hit you up.
Wait a minute. How are we gonna? Oh wait. Do you want to DM me your Or wait.
Oh yeah. I could give that a shot. I guess maybe I can try DMing you mine. But I have a pretty well laid out, and then ultimately,
I should DM you my Discord name on TikTok, right? That's what.
Yeah. Shoot me in the DMs here on TikTok, and then I'll add you, and then I'll just hit you up in a DM with some really good arguments and stuff like that. And my worldview kind of is ultimately called the inherent capacity view, but it's compatible. It's compatible with natural law theory, and then eventually, like you can make the case for the transcendental categories too. So like it lines up very well with you know the theologian worldview.
I can make an abortion bot.
Right.
What would you like to say, low key?
So like, I would say that religion is extremely dehumanizing, and that it's just at this point in time, I think
religion is dehumanizing, dude. In religion,
yes.
No.
I think religion as a whole is just something that shouldn't be a part of like the society at this point in time.
You're not that. Religion is not dehumanizing. In religion, you're made in the image.
Let me tell you why I think religion is dehumanizing. All right.
Okay, I'm not really interested. He's like not even letting me talk. Let me tell you why you need to act like a man. You need to let people talk and not just constantly interrupt them.
That song you were playing?
That
song you were playing earlier was hilarious, by the way.
Apes Together song. Yeah. I should play that more. That's a good one.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go look for it now. I'm really like, oh, that's a good one.
It's that's the YouTube channel. Without Lies, Islam Dies. So that's pretty easy to remember, right? Without Lies, Islam Dies, and that's YouTube. That's called Apes Together Strong. I think was the name of the song. Something like that. This guy's not really connected. Anything else to say? I might go make some lunch here, I guess, unless is Darth going to come up. Darth looks like he's busy. Darth's probably eating a bagel.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you gotta go. I'm just getting going on my day. But yeah, the abortion topic's been a pretty big one. I think that's what really kicked off debate talk some years ago, back in 2020. But
yeah, I wish I had in there, but yeah.
It's gotten in really heavy into the like meta now. So now when you get into
it is a meta ethical thing. It's the debate is about how do we know where do we get value from? That's ultimately like who determines value. That's what the debate is, right? It's like do we value the baby's life more than I don't know the mom's right to choose or whatever.
One of my favorite things to do. Pretty much all the because most of the people who are for abortion are they're atheists, and so I always get them because their worldview always ultimately reverts to
subjective.
Yeah.
Once you learn precept, it's really helpful in like debates in general because you learn like the foundations of like, how we reason and come to knowledge and ethical positions and all that. So precept's pretty good. If you master precept,
I got one gal who's been.
Oh, you're kind of breaking up, Tony.
One gal to admit that she has. Oh. All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
hello. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
So I got one gal. Yeah. I got one gal to admit that she has no knowledge. And I was like, then what are you talking to me? Bye. I was like, I don't talk to phantoms. I was like, you're non-existent. You can't even prove your own existence. I was like, I'm not going to sit here and talk to myself all day.
Anime debaters, when they go, everything's subjective. It's like, well, then why are we arguing? What are we doing here? Anime debating? Like, what is it?
So the problems asked, what's the name of the view you hold? The name of the view that I hold, I mean, I call it inherent capacity or just capacity for short, but I mean, a couple of people call it different things, but it's compatible with what's called flow. Flow is what's called future like ours, meaning it's an account of harm, meaning it describes why unaliving is harmful. And then also the capacity view, because the word capacity means, like what that thing is capable of. So if I said to you, what is the capacity of a 5-gallon bucket? Well, we first look at it in its entirety of what that thing is. It is plastic, inanimate, so obviously it doesn't have a capacity that is living, so its capacity is basically inanimate. So there's no implications on the living side, so we can skirt that out. And then when we look at what it can do, well, it has a 5-gallon capacity. Now, if it's empty, what's its capacity? It still has 5 gallons. If it's full, what's its capacity? Still 5 gallons. It's just actualizing or utilizing its capacity. So when we talk about the capacity of a human, right, this goes into discussions about ontology and teleology. And the ontology or teleology of man is to be a social, rational being. The social aspect of our nature means that we're going to codepend on each other. We're going to rely on each other. We're going to cohabitate to each other. So this necessitates that humans are communal beings. And then the irrational aspect of our nature basically means that we're going to recognize that we have this dependency and this cohabitation and commingling with others. And therefore, we're going to flourishing and that flourishing and sustainment of not only the individual but the collective. So these considerations we recognize, we call rights, and rights are just moral entitlements. An entitlement is something owed. Morals are considerations concerning impact to others, right? So when we say, oh, you're being very moral, we're saying somebody's being very considerate of their impact to others. When we say somebody's being immoral, clearly they're not considering their impact to others. When we say entitlement, we're talking about considerations owed.
This is so secular. I don't like this.
And there's one thing that I'm having difficulty trying to find. This is where ultimately I think when the argument reduces down, most of the time the argument doesn't reduce down, but once the argument reduces down far enough into natural law theory, there is an atheist and a theist side to natural law. The atheist is going to assert rationalism or some sense of monism to ultimately try to ground their worldview, whereas in the theist is ultimately going to have to reduce their natural law down to God. So then that's where I think ultimately if you want to get really deep into the meta, that's where we have the upper hand, because then you have to get into theories of knowledge and how they know what they know and all this other stuff, and that's when you can get into precept. The argument almost never gets down or reduces down that far. So most of the time I never get into a discussion about God, but sometimes I do, because then I'll hear people try to justify their atheist position with evictionism, and then they go into notions of property rights, and that's where I can hit them really hard about whether or not they own them.
I think we need revelation. I don't know if like natural law is really enough.
Well, what? Well, I mean, I would say that natural law is what you'd call in precept natural revelation, meaning there's a way that things operate, or there's a way that we are constructed by God, right, that makes us this way. God made us with an ontology, with a teleology, with a purpose.
Yeah, but natural law ends up in relativism. So we need special revelation.
Well, I mean, maybe on the atheist side, because there is an atheist side to natural law. Huh? I can't hear you. What?
No, it'd be relative on a theist position too. Like if all we had was natural revelation, then we could disagree. Like I could say, well, I think natural revelation says this, and you go, well, I think natural revelation says that. And there's no context to say who's correct.
Well, yeah. Well, if you go with like natural, well, and that's why ultimately I think like you'll have to get in once you get if the argument reduces that far down, that's when you can get into presup, and then once you get into presup, you can ask somebody how do they know what they know about natural things or this and that, and I think that's where you can lead into presup. But the argument in abortion, from the abortion aspect, almost never reduces down that far because people are too busy concerned. So mainly the abortion argument is a different tempo. It's about pointing out the flaws in their reasoning, and that's generally what I end up doing. Especially if they assert evictionism, they'll assert property rights. I'll ask them, I'm like, okay, how do you ground property rights? And then ultimately I lead them down a path to where I show them that property rights ultimately means that it devolves into slavery, and it also devolves and it allows for other things like R-word, essay, and things like that.
I just like straight precept them. I'm just like, okay, so like your standard, you just have this arbitrary standard for like what human has value, what human doesn't have value. We have to rely on like God's standard, or we have no objective standard. And then I point out that like, you know, what if someone just arbitrarily decided like your life doesn't have value? Because that I think when we create a system to oppress other people, which basically abortion is, you want to sugarcoat it. Like this is what it is. So it's a tool of oppression of humans, and so that tool will be used on you. Just give it time.
They're gonna meta you. They're gonna be like, how do you know? And what grounds the obligations?
Well, that's obvious. It's just like history. Just look at history. That's what
they're
happens.
gonna say. They're gonna deny you on logic. They're gonna say, what's the inference rule? That's what they're gonna ask you. What's the
They have no inference rule. It's not. It wouldn't be an inference rule because it's not logical. It's about It's an ethical. It's an ought. So They should be asking what's the normative framework, not what's the inference rule.
Well, if you're saying the ought, right? Well, then that's the is-ought gap. They're asking you to bridge the is-ought gap, and they might ask you to put in the form of syllogism, and then in the syllogism, they're going to ask you what the inference rule is.
We don't have an is-ought gap because we have revealed right and wrong from the source of right and wrong. Welcome, guest. Are you there? What's his name? JM. I can't read.
Hello?
Hello.
Jim? Is it Jim?
Yo, what's up?
What would you like to say?
So, why do you consider atheism to be irrational?
Because it ignores evidence. It's a blind lack of belief with no reason behind it, and it's like it contradicts itself.
All right, how would you say it contradicts itself?
It'd be a performative contradiction where, like, if atheism were true, then atheism would not be true because you couldn't say anything is true. Atheism would entail like truth would be impossible. So you couldn't.
You don't need God to make truth. We don't do that now. We use our five senses to make truth.
Your mind makes truth?
Your five senses do, yeah. Otherwise, you would have nothing else to objectively observe.
No. Your five senses just like describe the world. It doesn't like make anything.
So how did people observe Jesus and Christianity? If your five senses aren't reliable for what you can see here, then it's not reliable for religion either.
What makes a fact true?
You gather evidence based off of your five senses. So for something like God is objectively not provable or disprovable because he's outside the realm of your five senses.
Stop. A fact is a state of affairs, okay? So we need God to dictate what the state of affairs is, what cannot be, right? What can and cannot be.
Facts are objectively scientific, and there's a scientific
What
process
makes the
to
state
how
of
you
affairs?
determine facts.
What dictates what is the state of affairs? What can and cannot be? What is, what can and cannot be?
What we determine.
No. I'm talking about reality. What entity dictates the state of affairs, what is, what can, what cannot be. That's what would make a fact true. And that's what God
what we can observe. We don't apply anything that we cannot observe to the larger picture.
Yeah. So if all facts are interpreted by human
If you're asking for an objective reality, there is not one without God.
Okay, there we go. Now you're contradicting yourself, because an argument, to even come up here and argue, we would have to share some objective truth. It doesn't make sense to argue.
But there is no objective truth.
Well, then you're contradicting yourself by arguing.
No, I'm saying that
you're philosophically confused.
Objective means that without a doubt you can prove it. You cannot prove
You're contradicting yourself. You're confused.
Oh.
Welcome, problem.
Oh, you dropped them. I was going to put them in a trap real quick.
I mean, he said there was no truth, so then that makes the debate over. I kind of got like. Okay, you can say something.
I was just going to say real quick, whenever they try to use that, oh, we only have the 5 senses thing, in order to lead them in a trap, just ask them, do you have to use logic in order to perceive any of the 5 senses? And there's no way out of that question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes, because we need the law of identity to even observe the world, because we have to organize and categorize the observation.
And then also the senses input, that's an association that the brain has with the mechanisms that perceive. So that's an association you have to trust, right? Because there are people who have phantom limb syndrome, who have no arm, but they have the phantom sensation. Is it true that they have an arm if they feel a sensation? No. But they still have the association in their brain, and the association is so strong that it's telling their brain their arm is still there.
You got anything else, problem? Because I kind of want to make some food here. I'm getting hungry.
No, I've been here. Yeah, I heard you say you was going to leave like 20 minutes ago. But yeah, I just wanted to come up and try to trap him real quick. Yeah, I'll catch you when next time you go live, bud.
Okay, thanks, guys. Oh, there's someone.
All right, see you, P-Mars.
One more quick person. All right, take care, guys.
All right, see you, man.
Real quick, we'll speed run. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to say fuck niggers and white power.
Oh, there we go. This is atheism. This is atheism. There you go. The face of atheism. Poster child for atheism right there. Wish you well, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.